come to Jamaica, the island of real bad man. Some real dog at you, some real gang bang. No run for the fair, they not garbage pan. Step up! These are the moments when everybody gun loaded. We not instigate violence, but we believe in the self-defense no matter what. These are the moments when every gangster gun loaded. We not instigate violence, but we believe in the self-defense.
In Jamaica's relentless war and crime, the worst criminals end up on the True Island Story platform. These are their stories. Welcome to True Island Stories. We interrupt the story to bring you... Oh, forget that. This story on the Trafalgar Road shooting has more twists and turns than Fern Gully, Mount Russell and Charkill put together. The story of Mr. Robert Fletcher, who was the businessman whose licensed firearm was taken from him when he was killed during a robbery. But we'll get further into that story. Oh, and did you know that because of the eye in the sky tech, the cops' response time to that crime was 10 minutes? Unbelievable! Oh, what a difference a day makes. But get this, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Because info received is that Mr. Robert Fletcher is a deportee. And he was deported back in 2015, according to Nationwide News, who digs into the gutter and ventures where many dares not venture. To give us the real, so big up Nationwide News on that one here. But as I was saying, to every action is an equal and opposite reaction. Because if somebody in the upper echelon never grant him the gun license, that incident on Trafalgar would probably never have happened, actually. So the very moment greed came into play, it was evident it was going to have a ripple effect 6 years later. But I guess hindsight is always 2020, eh? Because no good deed goes unrewarded. And it is said, no bad deed goes unpunished. So those greedmongers who granted him the license, knowing fully well he was ineligible for one, yet they gave him one. What are your thoughts on the matter now? Was it worth it? My views and subs. Question: should there be a convening of a grand jury and an exclusive investigation immediately be conducted into the matter for procuring murder in lieu of therein forthwith, notwithstanding? Here is a quote from Nationwide News as to how deep this story runs. The recovery of the two licensed firearms which belonged to controversial businessmen, and they use the word controversial, that adjective, controversial businessman, Mr. Robert Fletcher, is raising eyebrows. In 2015, despite him being a criminal convict, the businessman was issued with two, not one, but two firearm licenses by the FLA. Corruption at its heights. If you ask me, nobody did they? You don't have to ask, I'm going to tell you either way. Kake years are chucking I pool and go swim make water full of it. You know why. Now Fletcher was gunned down by thugs at his sports bar. Now a lot of you didn't know that. On Olo Road on Tuesday, his licensed Glock pistol was taken from him by the gunman. Yes, it was a Glock. Many of us didn't know that. And two hoodlums were killed by the police shortly after. They murdered Mr. Fletcher in cold blood. The businessman's licensed handgun was recovered by the police. Yesterday, police detective retrieved a licensed shotgun from Mr. Fletcher's premises, which was occupied by Mr. Fletcher. But those turn of events are raising concern in some of law enforcement circles about how Mr. Fletcher was able to come into possession of gun license in 2015, despite him being a criminal convict. The businessman was issued with two, not one, but two firearm licenses by the FLA board, which was appointed by then Simpson Miller administration. I quote, Simpson Miller administration. I think it no matter what administration, there are loopholes in every administration, and that at Jamaica. So putting that quote there doesn't, negate this fact or the circumstances of the matter there. Now, Nationwide continues to say, a few years prior to him being issued with the gun license, Fletcher was convicted of forgery and uttering forged documents. Not by any means a savage crime, a murder or assault or, anything with any violent criminal behavior. He was, however, deported from the USA to Jamaica. Fletcher was also convicted in the USA. Well, obviously, that's why he was deported. I'm just saying. Our news center understands that in 2015, two former senior executives, and I use the word former meaning they do not work there anymore, former senior executives of the FLA, Firearms License Association management team, had objected to Mr. Fletcher being issued with the gun license. No wonder they don't work there anymore. Them get them out, cause them never in a the pocket. Now, these objections were based on community and background checks, which suggested that Mr. Fletcher was of questionable character and not fit to be granted a license therein. However, the then FLA Board of Directors reportedly disregarded the objections made by the investigators and issued the gun license to Mr. Fletcher regardless. How preposterous. The businessman's murder this week has attracted national attention. The murder of Mr. Fletcher prompted a gunfight between the police and the gunmen in the vicinity of Trafalgar Road in St. Andrew. Alright, make we broke down this story like all crap. All crap back. No, remember we're speaking about criminals who had no compunctions or reservations of killing Mr. Fletcher or killing any of the police who engaged them. Yet, some people are criticizing the police on their response time and their execution, of their duties. Oh no, Lord, they're excellent, bravo, bravo. And you know what I commend them on also? There were absolutely no civilian casualties, which to me, and I'm sure several of my subscribers and listeners, that is of paramount importance in our book. Yes. But what I'm saying, sometimes when you do, it come back around because of the greed. Not only it come down through the annals of time where Mr. Fletcher get killed, civilians could have also get killed. Police could have also get shot and injured, perhaps killed. Just because somebody want a piece of food. Cause money running out and him get him license. Grant you, him come and him want to start, a new leaf. Him have a right to protection. Grant you, him offense overseas was criminal. But it was criminal nonetheless, and there are laws. Somebody who lay down the laws and was supposed to uphold the law, go around the law, or go above the law, and give him the license. I swear it turn out to. Alright. Now, one other thing where me have a point out. The umbre we see a walk with the police, chang, I come from over Abbey Court. Then when we look, we see him get shot with handcuff behind him. Him look like him will get shot too when him a walk. Him no look like him a walk chang man like donkey man. But he hand is quicker than the eye. So, me not interfere with that. Me not interfering with that. Cause anything him get over there, so him deserve it. Cause me never send him go nowhere. Me that always smack him out sleep and I say, what if there was a fourth shooter? But me not shell out no money in the race, cause on the horse, cause me never like the odds at 20 to 1 I get and it look like somebody a pat the pool. But as I say, sketchy practices yield sketchy result. And this earth, whether you like it or not, it is so perfectly sculptured. So perfectly. and imperfectly balanced. Everything you or someone else does inadvertently affects someone else on this planet. Remember, the police will kill one of the shooter. Probably 30 or 35 years ago when he was born. And when one of the perp was born 20 or 25 years ago, depending on his age, they didn't know that their destinies were intertwined. They just had to follow a certain path to fulfill it. One had to become a cop, one had to become a criminal. Maybe they had different roads they could take, but them choose the path there. And years later, them that go cross the crossroad there. One would mean life and one would mean death for the next one. You understand? It's so in a way. You have a partner, your husband or your wife at home. Maybe I walk to the store, or just because one I have a friend. Now that friend destiny was just to introduce you to the person you're with now. You didn't even know that. Because if you never meet a friend that wouldn't introduce you to your husband or your wife where you have now. And sometimes you know, if you cry when you lose some friend, you know, or you lose somebody in a relationship, you know, because them only come into the relationship to make you stronger, to open up your eye to things where you would make other people do to you, and for you see how cruel people can really become. So them come in your life to make you stronger, and God teach a lesson through painful ordeal. You understand me? And him make hurtful things happen to you, because if it's not hurtful enough, you're not gonna let it go. So it have to hurt you to the point where you hate the person there, or you hate the situation so bad. You have to take away yourself, because if you don't hate it that much, you're gonna go back to it, because we are of addicted personalities and we tend to go back to the same thing, you know, like we gluttonous of punishment, because we are human species. And that's what we do. It's in our DNA, you know what I mean? So sometimes when you get the hurt and it carve out your system, but after you cry, and it's okay to cry, but after you cry and you get over it, and you come out of the situation, you come out of the ball game and I stand, you say to myself, God, I don't know what me that do with all him. And the man I said, I don't know what me that do with all she. When you find all a good woman on your side, we are take care of you. You say, Jesus Christ, I don't know what me that do with all she. Almighty, we go back this stuff in nothing. You understand? What you in it, you know, realize, say, you don't go and come out of a barrel if you rest a crab. Because in a life, you know, always remember, no matter how it's good right now, there's always better. And no matter if you left good and go better, there's always best. So sometimes you have to just continue the journey. Build up your mental and continue the journey. You understand? So as when we say the perp and the cop, the perp and the police, their destinies were intertwined. Yeah. As when we say, don't cry sometime when you lose some friend. Them come for a reason. Them come to fulfill a purpose and move on. So you can fulfill your real purpose. And sometimes for them as well. Because life is so deep, you know, if you look at it from a spherical perspective and not just one-dimensional. Earth will go on without us whether we like it, yes or no. Because we are all just a blip in the timeline of time. Of Earth's timeline. So don't just live to exist, but exist to live. We have come to the end of this story. The Guru has spoken. But if you choose to pick up the gun or the knife, then there's a chance you might end up on True Island Stories. What? Will you choose?
I am Joy.
Pepper, you know the real SH00TING, huh? How we grow, sometime the road tough side slow. Real patriots never buckle, never fall. How they get to run, that's why. Back from the boy, we not do that. Boy, who no can't tell we try, who no boy. Who from your soul don't know what wrong boy. Yo, and a man bust a shot him off a pack up and board. Point it on him head back and board. Pop off him strap on him friend him for door. None of that, no assumption. I saw the ground rough, yeah. Power, married to corruption. Criminal, bred from limited options. 10 generation, I see the said someone wanted man will live long. Name one. Things will ever be with not done. Name one. One good honest politician. Name one. And get a youth resilient. Back from the boy who wanna do that. Who no can't tell me joy. Who no boy. Who from your soul don't know what wrong boy. Yo, a man better boy. And a man bust a shot him off a back up and go. Point it on him head back and go. Pop off him strap on him friend them for door. None of that, you a man better. Things risky, for the misfit. Death rate fit the logistic. Risk, I want the biscuit. Be a tough crackers with the whiskey. You're not listening. Crime live here, so it's not visiting. Visitors, careful, you know what the business is. Murder, plunder, pillaging, oh. Bloodshed in all the villages. You name it, you will live in it. Get rich, I do a special delivery. Nightmare, tormented images. Vengeance, bloody cycle continuing. But know you seek that, but it's no revenge. Looking at the mirror, there is no different. Man, we full of, hey, and we know we friends back from the boy, I wanna do that. Who no can't tell me joy, who no boy. Who from your soul don't know what wrong boy. Yup, now a man better. Any man bust no shot him off a back up and go. Point it on him head back and go. Pop off him strap on him friend him for door. None of that, now a man better. No assumption, I saw the ground run. Power, married to corruption. Criminal, bred from limited options. 10 generation, passing the said someone wanted man will live long. Name one, himself a lot with no name one. One honest politician, name one who. And get a youth resilient. Back from the boy we not do that. Can't kill with your on the back. Who from your soul don't know what wrong boy. Yo, a man better go. Any man bust a shot him off a back up and go. Point it on him head back and go. Pop off him strap on him friend him do it. None of that to the top. Yo, you know the thing going on, suck a seat up a beat, you know. Hey man, take your time man. Boy, go man. Man to them pepper look.
No, sir. Traffic must hold you. So right there, so me know say I be a done go